Hello there, this is L24 World News Program, and these are your headlines. After Russia's ultimatum for the surrender of the last forces resisting in Mariupol expired on April 20, Ukraine proposed holding a special round of discussion with Russia in the besieged city of Mariupol. Chinese President Xi Jinping on Thursday proposed a global security initiative to promote security for everyone in the world. The Zionist occupier has distributed images of series of strikes carried out during the night against Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Hello again and welcome. Those were today's headline. Russian forces are advancing from staging sites in the Donbass towards Kramatorsk, which is still being bombarded by rockets, according to the British Ministry of Defense. The ministry's most recent assessment said that significant levels of Russian air activity remain in eastern Ukraine as Moscow attempts to retake the region, and Russia may expand strikes on the Donbass as it seeks to display success in Ukraine ahead of its Victory Day festivals on May 9th. The Russian military announced the first successful test firing of the Thermos intercontinental ballistic missile, a next-generation ultra-long-range weapon. During an announcement broadcast on television, President Vladimir Putin said that this missile will make those who try to threaten our country with wild and aggressive rhetoric think twice.
I congratulate you on the successful launch of the Sarmat intercontinental ballistic missile. This is an important and significant event in the development of promising weapon systems for the Russian military. It is truly a unique weapon that will boost the military potential of our armed forces, keep Russia safe from external threats, and make those who try to threaten our country with wild and aggressive rhetoric think twice.
After Russia's ultimatum for the surrender of the last forces resisting in Mariupol expired on April 20, Ukraine proposed holding a special round of discussion with Russia in the besieged city of Mariupol. The chief Ukrainian negotiator and presidential assistant stated that the Ukrainian side is willing to hold negotiations without conditions. Russian president says his forces successfully seized the Ukrainian city of Mariupol, orders remaining Ukrainian fighters to be besieged rather than stalled.
Mariupol liberation work is a success. Congratulations. Send our thanks to the troops. I consider the proposed assault on the industrial zone to be inappropriate. I order it to be called off. You must not enter these catacombs and crawl underground through these industrial installations. Block off this whole area so that not even a fly will pass.
Russian armed forces and units of the People's Republic of Donetsk have liberated Mariupol. The remaining nationalist formations have taken refuge in the industrial zone of the Azovstal factory. During the liberation of the city, more than 4,000 were killed, 1,478 surrendered. The remaining group, more than 2,000 were blocked in the industrial zone of the Azovstal plant.
According to Stephen Dujarric, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has requested separate talks with presidents of Russia and Ukraine in order to stop the current conflict. Stephen Dujarric, who spoke in press briefing, stated that letters were delivered to the permanent embassies of Russia and Ukraine on Tuesday afternoon.
On Ukraine, I can tell you that yesterday afternoon, separate letters were handed over to the permanent missions of the Russian Federation and Ukraine. In these letters, the Secretary General asked President Vladimir Putin to receive him in Moscow and President Vladimir Zelensky to receive him in Kiev. The Secretary General said at this time of great peril and consequence, he would like to discuss urgent steps to bring about peace in Ukraine and the future of multilateralism based on the Charter of the UN and international law.
The head of the Italian diplomacy, Luigi Di Maio, and the Italian Minister of Energy and Transition, Roberto Scinangoli, signed two memorandums of understanding with Angola to notably increase gas supplies. Italy wishes to reduce its dependencies on Russian energy in the context of Russia-Ukraine crisis. The details in this report by Hussein Burkan.
Italy bets on African gas to no longer depend on Russia after the agreement signed last week to ramp up gas imports from Algeria and Egypt. Italy has embarked on a diplomatic mission this week, signing two memorandums of understanding with Angola to notably increase gas supplies in an attempt to get out of the dependence on Russian energy.
The signing of an important agreement between our countries by our Minister of Oil and Gas and also by the Italian Minister. But this is the only one of the steps that we have taken because we have a diversified cooperation with Italy. I think we have enough elements for a strong cooperation and above all a strategic partnership.
Rome uses the excellent relations that the Italian energy giant Eni has established during 69 years of presence in Africa, where it is the leader both in terms of production and reserves.
And finally, I want to thank the ministers, all the Angolan authorities and especially the president for the collaboration that exists between us, for the work that awaits us next month and in the years to come. Thank you very much.
While Russia supplies the peninsula with 45% of gas, Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi wants to change this situation by diversifying his portfolio of suppliers as quickly as possible. Analysts estimate that it will take Italy at least 2 or 3 years to replace Russian gas, a race against time to secure gas and oil reserves for the next winter season.
Chinese President Xi Jinping on Thursday proposed a global security initiative to promote security for everyone in the world. Mr. Xi Jinping also reaffirmed China's opposition to one-sided sanctions and long-arm jurisdiction. Nabil Khazini.
At the opening ceremony of the Boao Forum for Asia Annual Conference 2022, Chinese President Xi Jinping, attending via video link, reaffirmed China's opposition to unilateral sanctions without directly mentioning the measures taken by the West against Russia.
In today's world, any unilateralism and extreme egoism are fundamentally unworkable, and any decoupling, cutting off supplies and extreme pressure are fundamentally unworkable. Confrontation is unworkable.
Since the start of the conflict in Ukraine, Beijing has said it works for a peaceful settlement in the Ukraine crisis. China has also blamed the Ukraine conflict on the eastward expansion of NATO, but China has been careful not to provide assistance to Moscow that could lead to sanctions being imposed on Beijing.
We should adhere to peaceful settlement of differences and disputes between countries through dialogue and consultation. Support all efforts that are conducive to the peaceful resolution of crises. Do not practice double standards and oppose the abuse of unilateral sanctions and long-arm jurisdiction.
Without giving no details of how it would be implemented, Chinese President Xi Jinping proposed a global security initiative that supports the principle of indivisible security, a concept also endorsed by Russia. Xi has also called on Russian nations to keep the future of the region in their hands.
We should also reject the Cold War mentality, oppose unilateralism, and say no to group politics and bloc confrontation. We should stay committed to taking the legitimate security concerns of all countries seriously.
Relations between China and Russia have grown increasingly close. Unlike Western countries, China has declined to condemn Russia's military operation in Ukraine and highlighted Moscow's concerns over NATO expansion threatening Russia's security.
Pierre-Olivier Garincha, the new chief economist of International Monetary Fund, warns that war in Ukraine has considerably clouded the prospects of the world economy because Ukraine and Russia are imported grain producers for many countries, and Russia is also a key source of energy for Europe.
Economic prospects have been severely set back, largely because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. This crisis unfolds as the global economy has not yet fully recovered from the pandemic. Even before the war, inflation in many countries had been rising due to supply-demand imbalances and policy support during the pandemic, prompting a tightening of monetary policy. The war adds to the series of supply shocks that have struck the global economy in recent years. Like seismic waves, its effect will propagate far and wide through commodity markets, trade, and financial linkages. Russia is a major supplier of oil, gas, and metals, and together with Ukraine, of wheat and corn. Reduced supplies of these commodities have driven their prices up sharply.
David Malpass, president of the World Bank, called the world to take important steps to address the current set of crises. He also had shown his support to Ukraine and that he will hold a meeting with Ukraine and supportive countries to look for assistance that will consider the near-term and also the longer-term needs of the people of Ukraine. More details with Soufiane Kanchouri.
In the face of crisis, the World Bank Group has been quick to respond. First, the COVID-19 surge financing in the previous 2 years, which was one of the fastest and largest in history. Now the president of the World Organization claims that the bank is investing in Ukraine and that promises and payments have made rapidly, including roughly $1.5 million announced in Poland last week.
We wanted to have immediate support to help Ukraine continue some of the government services. So we were able to mobilize nearly $1 billion in emergency financing soon after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and that helped pay hospital workers and pensions and other government services.
The president of the World Bank emphasized that the world needs to take important steps to address the current set of crises by allowing more trade. He also mentioned that he welcomed India's moves yesterday and today to begin sell from its stockpiles.
The world needs to take important steps to address the current set of crises. One is to allow more trade. Market opening steps are very important. I was intrigued to see and welcomed India's moves yesterday and today to begin to sell from its stockpiles.
Fertilizer and energy are both essential for the agricultural cycle. Thus, they are compounding and causing a food insecurity crisis that will last at least few months, if not longer. Food costs have already risen by 37% year on year. There has been a change in relative costs, with food prices increasing faster than CPE. This is crucial because it indicates the extent to which it affects the poor.
U.S. President Joe Biden assembled U.S. military leaders on Wednesday in an annual White House gathering. During the meeting, Joe Biden said that NATO's unity has shocked the Russian President Vladimir Putin. The meeting comes after Russia has announced a beginning of a new phase of what Moscow calls a special military operation in Ukraine.
They're stepping up. I don't know about you, but I've been to Ukraine a number of times before the war. I've spoken to the Rada. I was deeply involved in what was going on in Ukraine. And I knew they were tough and proud, but I tell you what, they're tougher and more proud than I thought. I'm amazed what they're doing with your help.
White House spokeswoman Jen Psaki said in a press briefing, new sanctions from Washington are intended to end a network to circumvent punishment targeting Moscow. She also added that the United States does not consider it a threat that Russia is testing a new nuclear-capable intercontinental ballistic missile.
Sanctioned TransCapital Bank, a key Russian commercial bank that has offered services to banks globally to evade international sanctions, and more than 40 individuals and entities that are part of a Russian sanctions evasion network led by Russian oligarch Konstantin Malafeyev. We have also imposed sanctions on companies in Russia's virtual currency mining industry that operate vast server farms and provide revenue to the Russian government.
The European Union expressed its support for Kiev on Wednesday with a visit by the President of the European Council, Charles Michel. He went to Brodanyaka, one of the localities near the Ukrainian capital, which the Ukrainian accuses the Russian of having massacred civilians.
And I'm convinced that what you are demonstrating day to day is a demonstration that you are totally committed for the democratic principle, for the freedoms, and you don't fight only for the future of the children of Ukraine. We know that you fight for the European fundamental principles and values. Kremlin's goal is to destroy the sovereignty of Ukraine. It's also to divide the European Union. And he will not succeed.
Regarding our future European Union membership, this is a priority for our state, for the strength of our people, who are ready to defend our land against Russian invaders, even without arms.
At a group of 20 meeting on Wednesday, representatives from United Kingdom, United States and Canada walked out on Russia's representatives, and several members spoke out against Moscow's conflict in Ukraine, revealing significant differences in a group of big nations. Mulyani Indrawati, the Indonesian financial minister who chaired over a conference of the G20 finance officials in Washington, admitted that the group was facing unprecedented problems, but urged collaboration to overcome headwinds impeding global development. China's economic stimulus measures would be critical to the global recovery, according to the director of the International Monetary Fund, who warned that a prolonged downturn would have serious consequences. Despite a weakening forecast for world's second largest economy, IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva said that on Tuesday that Beijing has flexibility to adopt steps to boost growth. Authorities in the Chinese city of Shanghai have announced on Thursday that tough COVID-19 related curbs will remain in place as the number of cases outside quarantine continue to rise. Shanghai reported around 60,000 new local asymptomatic coronavirus cases on Wednesday, while symptomatic cases stood at 2,634 cases. Zionist occupier has distributed images of a series of strikes carried out during the night against Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Hamas spokesman Hazem Qasem said in a statement that the strikes in Gaza Strip will not curb the determination to increase Palestinian resistance and defend the holy place in Al-Quds regardless of the sacrifice. Libya's parliament appointed Prime Minister Fathi Bashaga will convene his cabinet for the first time on Thursday in the southeastern city of Sabha, according to his spokesperson. Bashaga was selected by the eastern-based parliament in March, but the incumbent Prime Minister Abdul Hamid al-Dabeiba refused the liquid power, resulting in protracted impasse between the two administrations. French President Emmanuel Macron and his far-right Chancellor Marine Le Pen went head-to-head in a bruising televised debate on Wednesday night, seeking to sway undecided voters with just days left before the second and the final round of the presidential election on Sunday. The details in this report by Karim Fazakri.
With Russia's invasion of Ukraine overshadowing the campaign, Macron repeatedly zeroed in on a €9 million loan Le Pen's party took from a Czech Russian bank in 2014, arguing that because of this debt, her hands would be tied when dealing with the Kremlin.
For our country, this is bad news, because you depend on Russian power, and you depend on Putin. Because a few months after saying that, Mrs., you took out a loan in 2015 from a Russian bank, the first Czech Russian bank close to the government in September 2014. Then you repackage this loan from other players. All of this is completely transparent, known, notified, notarized, but also then involved in the war in Syria. So you don't talk to other leaders, you talk to your banker when you talk about Russia. That's the problem, Madame Le Pen.
Le Pen bristled at the suggestion that she was beholden to Moscow, arguing that her party had only taken the loan because French banks refused to lend to her.
He knows full well that I am an absolutely and totally free woman and that I defend because I am a patriot and I have demonstrated it all my life. France and the French, always, in all circumstances. Now what you say is wrong, many times. First, I found you a tweet I made on November 9th, 2014. I support a free Ukraine that is not subject to either the United States or the European Union, nor to Russia. This is my position.
Aside from Russia, the other explosive clash came when Le Pen confirmed she would ban Muslim women from wearing headscarves in public, describing the veil as a uniform imposed by Islamists.
I am for the banning of the veil in the public space. I said it in the clearest way. I think that the veil is a uniform imposed by the Islamists. I think that a large part of the young women who put it cannot do otherwise. In reality, even if they dare not to say so, since those who don't put it on the other hand, testify to the fact that they are isolated from the fact that they are insulted, because they are put aside and accused of being impure. Is that it? I believe.
Outgoing President Emmanuel Macron accuses his far-right rival Marine Le Pen of pushing for civil war.
The question of the veil is the question of a religion, of a religious exterior sign. That's it. It's the question of the headscarf more exactly. I'm for the law of 1905. It's our republic. The republic is secular. Secularism is not about fighting a religion, and therefore with me, there will be no ban on the headscarf, or the yarmulke, or any religious sign in the public space.
Macron is favored to win the April 24th runoff and become the first French president to win a second term since Jacques Chirac in 2002. However, analysts have warned that the result is far from a foregone conclusion, with surveys indicating that over 10% of French who intend to cast their ballots have yet to decide who to vote for.
Colombian army announced on Wednesday that more than 6 soldiers killed and 5 wounded in northwestern Colombia in an explosive attack attributed to traffickers. The armed forces blamed the attack on the Clan del Golfo cartel, the most powerful in the country, but whose leader Dario Antonio was captured in October. Units of the 4th Brigade were attacked with explosives as they made move Tuesday around midnight in the commune of Fornichon, the Department of the Northwest, said the army in a statement.
One of the vehicles in which the soldiers were traveling was hit by the activation of an improvised explosive device triggered by the Clan Bandits Golf. Many leaders of the Clan del Golfo were affected. Many members of the structure, many tons of cocaine were seized, especially last year. We are affecting their mobility corridors, and these bandits will retaliate against the troops.
Nicaragua parliament has excluded 25 non-governmental organizations which oppose the ruling system in the countries, including the Standing Commission on Human Rights, which documented in 2018 rights in the country. Islam Seed reports.
The Nicaraguan parliament, controlled by Daniel Ortega's party, banned 25 NGOs critical of his government, including human rights organizations, after a vote that received the support of 74 deputies, 15 abstentions and no vote against. According to the Ministry of Governance, which supervises NGOs in the country, said those who are sanctioned have not complied with the laws that govern the organizations not for profit by refusing to register under the 2020 law that requires them to account for funds they receive from abroad. One of the NGOs which is now prohibited from practicing its activities is the Standing Commission on Human Rights, which was founded in 1991 and had in particular documented the crackdown on the 2018 anti-government protests that killed at least 355 people. In November, Daniel Ortega was re-elected for a 4th consecutive term. However, the election could not be recognized by most of the international community, including the United States and European Union.
According to a recent analysis, Fiji, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, and the Maldives have the best chances of reviving the pandemic-ravaged tourist sectors among Asia-Pacific locations, while Hong Kong has the lowest chances owing to its straightened border restriction due to the Economist Intelligence Unit's Travel Reader Index in 2022. Singapore, Australia, Bangladesh, New Zealand, Nepal, and Cambodia are among the top 10 countries best positioned for tourist revival. The jersey that Diego Maradona wore during the semi-final of a 1986 World Cup is being sold at auction. On day one of the auction, that the shirt has already secured a £5 million bid. But the jersey's authenticity is debated. Maradona's daughter said earlier this month that the shirt put up for auction had been the one her father wore in the goalless first half, not the second when he scored his 2 goals. And that's all we have got so far for today's bulletin. Thank you so much for being with us. Take care of yourself and bye-bye.